There was the road that I picked, which was moving back to Ethiopia. I think it's called the road not taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less taken, and that has made all the difference. I can still see that other road. I go and travel to the US, I vacation there, so you experience that.
What if a single decision to buy a house in New York or move back to Ethiopia could change the entire course of your life?
This is Adam, and he chose the road less traveled.
He'll share what that choice cost him
What it gave him, and why he believes in the future he's building.
on the AGI Podcast.
What if you ended up having that house in the US, and what if you end up being a millionaire or a billionaire now?
Because I bought that house,
Yeah.
I probably would have made good money.
Some people claim that we have a unicorn in Ethiopia. Do you believe we have one?
What's a unicorn? It's like the valuation, the company is valued
Yeah,
at over $1 billion, right?
definitely.
Sometimes a company could be making no money and it could be valued at $1 billion. In our office, we were on dial-up internet. So the strategic shift, this kind of big decision that we made was, let's move it from a desktop application to a browser-based, an internet-based application.
I sometimes think because we're giving our kids everything they want, and they're taking it for granted.
I don't think you grow in your comfort zone. I think you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone to grow.
Do you have any ideal Ethiopia in your mind where you can work and not be frustrated about things? Do you have that kind of place?
Interesting.
Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abraham. Thank you for having me.
Here we don't do introductions. You be doing the introduction yourself. So, who's Adam?
Who's Adam? Wow. I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest. Yeah.
Right.
Adam changes, but let's see. Adam is a father of 3 kids,
All right.
married to a beautiful wife.
All right.
I live in Ethiopia. I've been here for the past 23 years now. Maybe I'll go backwards. I moved back in 2003, August 2003. Still remember the day. Before that, I was living in the United States. I studied and worked there for a number of years. And then prior to that, I was in the UK studying.
All right.
And prior to that, I was in Ethiopia. So I was born and raised in Ethiopia.
Okay.
I considered myself an Ethiopian. And I find myself in Ethiopia today.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I miss mostly with my guests. But right after the interview, someone here, maybe Jordan or someone like that, reminds me of this. People coming to the show, especially the ones who happen to go to this Ivy League schools, they don't mention it. So today we'll be talking about the impact of it because you went to one. And I don't know if it is something that you cringe about, you can stop about talking about it. But if there is any impact in terms of the outcome in your life or your business going to Ivy League, is there any difference?
Gosh. That's a loaded question. But I'll share a secret with you.
All right.
I don't think I knew it was an Ivy League when I applied.
Wow.
Or for that matter, after I got in, it occurred to me what that was. So I'd never actually been to the US, or at least I hadn't spent any considerable amount of time there. I was in the UK.
Okay.
And for some reason I thought, I felt and I knew that I wanted to study in the US. So I remember going through the application process, but I did not choose Brown University ultimately because I knew or thought it was an IB. I chose it because there was this particular course or major that just seemed to resonate with me. And I didn't see anywhere else. And it was something called development studies.
Wow.
Yeah, everywhere else it was called international relations, which to me sounded more like politics. But I ended up studying development studies and economics. So that's what drew me to Brown. So that's my little secret. I didn't really care or even know that it was an Ivy League. But it's a big question.
Yeah.
And I think it's got its pros and cons. Overwhelmingly pro. But I loved Brown. it was a great place for me. It's in a small town called Providence, Rhode Island, in the smallest state in the US. Like I said, it was my first time in the US, and I was coming from the UK. So it's the right size for me. That was also part of my consideration. And the other thing about Brown was you didn't have to, you could choose when you took classes whether you wanted it to be graded or whether you just wanted to get what they call the pass-fail.
All right.
Right? So you choose if you want to grade or not, in a way.
Wow.
So it was a very kind of liberal, free and open education. I loved my time there. Some of my strongest friendships to this day are from my time there. It was a great experience.
All right.
Yeah.
The reason I mentioned that question, that issue about Ivy League is because I don't know whether this is something that publicly known in Ethiopia or talked about, but in small circles, especially when you go to Ethiopian universities, we have people that we admire from universities like Harvard, Columbia, and stuff like that. And trying to study their background and how they achieved whatever they achieved, we associate whatever they achieved in life to be because they went to this school. That school happened to be Ivy League. And this is a common theme or a common thing among friends that I know. So that's the reason I mentioned that. I think most of the things that you accomplished in Ethiopia after that are wide ranging, and I can say your impact is big. But before talking about the impact that you've had or you're having in Ethiopia in the sector that you are in, I just want to ask this question. Do you consider yourself a diaspora?
Abraham, I thought you were going to ease me into the questions. It's a very interesting question. So what is diaspora? So diaspora it's a group of people, right? It's not an individual. It's referred to as a group of people, and usually people that are outside of their country. So I'm not outside of my country, but diaspora is the label that we've been given here, and it has certain connotations. So yeah, I mean, not to argue about definitions, but by the definition of diaspora in this country, yeah, I'm a diaspora. I studied abroad. I lived abroad. I am a foreign national, right? I'm not an Ethiopian citizen anymore. So by those measures, yes, I am a diaspora. But it's a really interesting question you ask. I often ask, when do I lose that label? Because I've lived here most of my life. I've lived, just since I moved back, I've lived here more than I've lived outside the company, right? The country. So yeah, I mean, I jokingly sometimes say, when do I lose that label? But it is a label and has many connotations. So it depends how deep you want to go into that question. But just as a label, yeah, for people to understand what a diaspora is, I probably fit that definition in Ethiopia. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I've heard a lot of interesting things listening to your interviews. One of the most interesting things that I heard is the experience you've had in the US going to New York and trying to buy a house in New York.
Gosh.
And because of some reasons, associations or something like that, you ended up not having the chance to buy the house, or you didn't buy it. And you somehow associate that experience with you coming to Ethiopia and doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
I kind of tend to think that what if you ended up having that house in the US and pursued the journey that you've been pursuing in there?
Yeah.
And what if you end up being a millionaire or a billionaire now? Have you ever thought of that?
Because I bought that house?
Yeah.
I probably would have made good money because the house was in Park Slope, New York.
All right.
Which today, I mean, it's like, maybe 7, 8, 9x what I was going to buy it for. But would I become a millionaire because I bought that house? Not purely because I bought that house.
I'm not saying not because of the house.
Oh, but maybe if I had stayed in the US.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. Not interesting because of the specific question, but because you're asking about the path that I chose. Yeah, you're right. It's if I had bought that house, I may not have moved back to Ethiopia. Because in fact, I took the capital that I was gonna put into buying that house and put it into a business that I started in Ethiopia. So yeah, that's a little. It's a minor episode in my journey, but it influenced. It influenced obviously the path that I chose. If I had been burdened with a mortgage, maybe I wouldn't have been as daring, and maybe I wouldn't have come back. Yeah, but I think the bigger question is the path that I chose, right? And there were two roads. One was to continue living in the US and working in the US. And then there was the road that I picked, which was moving back to Ethiopia. I'm reminded of this poem. I think every high school, if not college student, usually would read this poem by Robert Frost.
All right.
I think it's called The Road Not Taken. And it's exactly this. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not misquoting it, the last line says, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less taken, and that has made all the difference.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, there were two different roads. I took a branch at one day, and I find myself here.
So you moved back to Ethiopia and you started working with the government of Ethiopia, and I want to know about the journey and if there are salient features of that journey that you need to share with the audience.
The initial,
definitely.
yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. So when I came back to start a business, any business. And I ended up choosing to start a solar energy business to import solar water heaters and install them on homes here. Why, you might ask me? Because we had a solar water on our house that my dad had brought from Israel. And then that's how we got our hot water. And it just sounded like a good idea. So it wasn't very deep, but that was kind of my entry point. It turned out that I didn't stick with that business for very long because on one of my last trips back to Ethiopia before like before you made the final journey, I ran into somebody, and then that turned into a consulting opportunity on a project at the Ministry of Finance. They were doing financial reform for the government, and there was a technical component to it. I had some experience related to the work they were doing, and so that's how it started. And then it turned into 4 years there. But those 4 years were special. They were special for many reasons. I was 27 years old. I was leading a team of, I can't remember, maybe 20, 30 engineers and technical staff. And we were building information systems for the Ministry of Ethiopia that we rolled out nationwide.
Wow.
And it was such a big part of my experience in Ethiopia that I've spoken about it before. But to have been trusted and given the opportunity to do that work was amazing. I would never have gotten that in the US. I was also young enough not to be scared. If you asked me to do that now, I would think
that was the question I was thinking of asking.
Yeah, like we almost didn't know enough to be concerned. We were young and confident, and we're just excited. And I think there's something to be said for that. You don't want to lose that, right? You don't want to lose confidence and the belief in yourself that you can just figure something out. So it was an amazing time. It was an amazing project. I got to work with friends that were very close to me at the time and that are very close to me now. And we did amazing work. So it was deeply rewarding, and it was also instructional, meaning I learned a lot, and I learned what could be done in Ethiopia. I learned what might work, what might not work, and I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot. It was amazing.
Okay.
And,
I think there is this bias. I don't know whether this is bias or stereotype that we have towards people that have this experience of living in abroad, especially in the UK or US, and having that experience when they come back to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
We don't kind of understand or consider ourselves equal to these people. So you mentioned working for the government of Ethiopia and the Ministry of Finance. So how did you find the environment and the people you work with? Did you have that maybe a stereotype, or did you consider everyone to be capable of delivering what the assignment they have to deliver? Was the environment suitable to what you expected it to be?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever, I don't know, for lack of a better word, looked down on people. I always assume that there's something to learn. And I always assume somebody knows a lot more than I do about what they do. So I don't recall, and it's been many years now, but I don't recall that sentiment that there were people that were not good at what they did. In fact, well, let me start with the team that we had.
Sure.
So we built everything in Ethiopia with an Ethiopian team. The only non-Ethiopian was my friend and the technical lead on the project, Eric. And I reached out to him because I needed somebody that I could trust, and I needed not just trust, but somebody who I believed in 150%, right? Because I did realize that what we were taking on was pretty big. Because there was a strategic decision there where I basically decided, okay, we're going to take this on. I'm going to take it on. I'm making a call, and I'm going to be responsible. So anyway, so that was important to me. But the team that we had, the only thing they lacked was experience. The only thing most people lack in Ethiopia is experience. Experience, like knowing what good is, or working on, say, a large scale technical platform. That's the only thing they lack. But we built everything Ethiopian. And then our counterparts in the ministry, I mean, they knew their job. They knew their job better than anybody. And let me tell you something else, like, interesting. When you come here as a diaspora, I will use that label, you're often confused about why things are done a certain way. And it's very easy to say, that's not right. That doesn't make sense. It should be done this way. But what I learned very quickly was there was always a logic to why something was done a certain way. And that logic was not flawed. It was logical. But it was just a different way of looking at the problem. And usually it was about overcoming some sort of obstacle or some problem or some need. But there was always a logic to it. And so, I think you have to spend the time understanding what that logic is and questioning your own logic, because what you think will work doesn't often work. And what works in the US or Europe or any other, say, more, I'd say a different country, not necessarily more developed, may not work here. So that was an important realization. So no, I did not think that I did not think that. I think everybody knew what they were doing. They were good at their jobs. But I will say, I don't think, and I use this word very carefully, but I don't think politics is always very logical, right? And my biggest struggle was with, loosely or broadly, the politics, because politics often trumps rationale or, just technical thinking. And certain decisions went certain ways because of, extra technical or not necessarily just technical reasons, which is understandable. There's always reasons for that too.
All right, great. So you mentioned being confident and young, and trying to deliver a big project at a ministry for the nation, actually, for Ethiopia. Do you think that feeling that Americanness, if there is any such word, to be American and to feel confidence, do you think that helped, or going to that sphere of, I don't know, experiencing what you experienced in the US, including in the college that you went to and the people that you met, maybe during your time of consultancy in the US, do you think that helped, or just being a young person and having confidence helped in accomplishing what we accomplished in Ethiopia at the ministry during that work?
I wouldn't associate it with being American per se. To be honest with you, I don't think of myself as very American.
No, right.
No, it was more, maybe confidence was the wrong, not entirely the wrong word, but think of it like a growth mindset. Like you can figure anything out. You know how to learn. You know how to solve problems. And to a certain degree, you're young. And like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So it was more that. It wasn't just bravado or... It was just, I trust in my ability to reach a logical, conclusive solution to whatever problems come my way. So, for example, I mentioned a strategic decision, right? We were working, when I came, the ministry was working with a local software engineering firm. And just to put it in context, again, this is 2003. Barely any internet. I can't even recall, mobile phones were not widespread. I definitely remember in our office, we were on dial-up internet. Okay, so that's the context. So most software was developed as a desktop application. You install it on a desktop computer or a laptop. So the strategic shift, this kind of big decision that we made was, let's move it from a desktop application to a browser-based, an internet-based application. And there was very strong logic for it, because the problem that we were facing was, how do we distribute software across Ethiopia down to the Warada level? This is like, at the time, 600 or so locations, oftentimes very rural areas. How do you distribute software there? Imagine if you had to install software on 600 or 12,000 computers, assuming there were 2 in each Warada. How would you support that? It's almost impossible, right? So our solution was make it like a web-based application in a country where there was no internet at the time, right? So it was bold, but it made sense, right? It made sense in solving the problem, like automating. Our task was basically to automate financial management for the government. So how do you do this? And so that was kind of the logical conclusion, and that's the leap I took, and that's what I spent the 4 years doing.
Let me be philosophical for just 1 minute. And I meet people because of my work here at AGI and my other responsibilities in different places. What I end up observing is meeting young people and having exchange of ideas. I think these people are going to change a lot of things, because they tell you that they want to start this, they want to do that, help the people, the community that they live in, and impact the economy. They kind of believe it, and I believe it too. But as they grow older, it could be about age or something that has to do age, people tend to lose confidence and they start telling you how the system is not helping them to operate in that way, how they need some kind of education, how they need some kind of experience, and they need extra amount of money, cash, or resources. And the people that you met prior are not here. Do you think it's our perception, or because the problem is there?
I think it's life.
Mm-hmm.
Life happens. Being human happens. How many times have you wanted to go to the gym and you don't go to the gym?
I'm lazy.
How many times have you wanted to save money and instead you spend it? How many plans have you had that you haven't fulfilled? I think first of all, it's a fundamentally human thing. It's easy to talk, and it's obviously much more difficult to take action and to succeed, right? Most people don't succeed. On top of that, there are real issues. There are systemic issues that are obstacles that most people don't get past. Maybe a few people get past. So, even now, sometimes we talk about, say, startups in Ethiopia. And some people might say, we don't have many great startups in Ethiopia. But we have a few. And I think that's how it works. Like, there aren't many that succeed. It's the few that succeed and go out. So, the narrative may focus on the many instead of the few. But yeah, if I understand your question correctly, I think it's human. It's the way things work. Most businesses fail. Most ideas fail. But it's the brave ones that take action on their ideas, even if they fail, that I admire, and I think we should encourage.
Right. Yeah, I don't have a very vast experience in other areas. For example, I didn't practice what I practiced in Ethiopia. I didn't have the chance to practice it in the US or the UK or other settings. So do you think it would be the same if the whole thing is taken to a different setting?
Okay. So still on the philosophical level,
Yeah.
I don't think people or humanity is that different. I don't think an Ethiopian is fundamentally different than an American. Either in what motivates us or what our capabilities are, anything. So I think most people respond to the environment in which they're in. So if you take the human element out of it, and if you're asking me, would we have seen different results in a different country? Yes, you would have. You would have. Partly because of some aspects of people, but those are results of the environment, like, say, maybe confidence or connections or what school you went to and what you happened to study, or if you were lucky enough to be in a certain place at a certain time where certain things are happening, like Bill Gates and people like that, right? But on top of that, the environment in a place like the US is very different, right? Like, the ecosystem works. Laws work, regulations work. There's a lot that doesn't work as well, but the ecosystem is just fundamentally different for ideas, especially business ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, the short answer is yes, that you would have had vastly different outcomes, but I don't think that's because intrinsically us Ethiopians are any different than anybody else.
Would you say you benefited from the ecosystem that you worked in the US?
In the US? I learned a lot, right? Like, of course, yeah. Like, I studied, I was exposed. So my first job was with a company called, at the time it was called Anderson Consulting. Now it's called Accenture, right? Big consulting firm.
Yeah.
And they used to send young 20-something-year-olds all over the country. But I was exposed to big companies. I worked at DuPont, big chemical factory company. I worked at Siebel Systems, which was like the first big, I think, HR software, later acquired by Oracle. I worked at, you may not know this, Ocean Spray Cranberries. I think that was my first one. Like, it's like a basic cranberries in the US are associated with Ocean Spray Cranberries, a big company. So yeah, I got exposure to all these big companies. I got exposure to people, like some pretty amazing people at all levels. I got to see what good is, like what large systems are, what big organizations look like. So yeah, of course, I benefited.
I mean, I heard you mention about operating in a system which is really vast, and you being you and coming back to Ethiopia and experiencing it in a different way. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh. So my first job, Anderson was a pretty sought after job. But if I describe my first job to you, you would laugh at me. I don't know if you know, but there's a project management software. I can't remember what it was. I think it's MS Project or something. My entire job was managing a project plan for like a 50-person consulting gig at Ocean Spray Cranberries. It was boring. And I will admit there were days I fell asleep right there on the thing. That's it. Like, imagine like an Ivy League, to use your word. I don't often throw that around, but an Ivy League educated 20-something-year-old being paid, decent money to manage a Microsoft project plan. It's like, you start on the bottom. So yeah, not always glamorous.
All right.
But your point, it took me back and I forgot your question. Yeah.
I mean, you started.
I get it. Yeah. This is I think you've heard me say something about being a small fish in a big pond. And totally. So that's how small I was. That's what I was trying to say. Like I was a small fish in a big pond. Like, I don't even know if the guy knew my name. Right? Okay. That's where I started. And then I came to Ethiopia. And look, one thing about Ethiopia is it's in the 23 years I've been here, Ethiopia, but let's say Addis, it's grown from being a small town to a big city, right? So at the time, there weren't that many people like me around. But that was my point, right? Like, obviously I had a lot more experience when I came other than managing my Microsoft project file, but I was given a role that I would never have been necessarily given in the US. And thankfully we did the job really well. But that's an opportunity that you'd be very hard pressed to find in the US. So again, I think I said, my size didn't change. I was still a small fish, but the pond was much smaller. So relatively, opportunities were different and my impact was also different. Yeah.
Do you think you would thrive if you continued in that environment in the US? Maybe, I know who you are today and doing a lot of things in this ecosystem in Ethiopia. Yeah. And we understand your contributions, many contributions. But I don't know why I keep imagining pupils, just about the word I used, the journey that is not taken.
Yeah.
So still take me to that area. And listen, the reason I'm asking you this question is because people like yourself, for example, the Zuckerbergs of the world, the Elon Musks of the world, they thrived in that ecosystem. Maybe they considered themselves to be small, but they achieved somehow. Now they're big.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, like, what if Adam and Paul have the chance to be one of them in there?
Yeah.
I still value the contribution.
Yeah.
I still like it to be here.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you were here.
Yeah.
But have you ever considered that?
Ask me when the last time I considered that was, and I'll look at my watch and tell you, a few hours ago. Look, First of all, what do you mean by thrive? That's like a separate question, right?
Definitely.
Like, yeah. So that's means different things to different people.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's something I think about all the time. But I think it's to my detriment. You know, like oftentimes, if you come to a fork in the road and you choose one road, you're never going to know what the other road was, right? Like you can't see it. You've gone in a completely different direction. And you're just committed to that road. I think part of the struggle of being a diaspora, and I'll admit part of my personal struggle, has been that I can still see that other road. If not for myself, all the friends that I have there. Or, yeah, it's largely through their lives or people that I know that didn't take my road, but I can see what it may have been like. I go and travel to the US, I vacation there. So you experience that. And yeah, you inevitably think, what if I had done that? But I don't think it gets you anywhere. In fact, it's like I said, it's to your own. It can often be to your own detriment. So I don't know what might have been. Sometimes when things are tough, you tend to look that direction and think maybe the grass is greener on the other side. And yeah, sometimes I admit, like, I might look back and say, what if I had taken that? Would I have been better off or not? But again, these are musings. And if I were honest with myself, they're probably things I think when times are not as good as you may want them, or when you're you're facing certain difficulties. So that's what I think about that. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. You did. But by thrive, I was saying, I don't know if you feel, for myself, the definition is, do I feel fulfilled in whatever I'm doing? It's never about money, but still you need to have money. But I never thought of it as relating to money. So am I happy talking to Adam here? Like, am I having fun?
Yeah.
I consider myself fulfilled and I'm thriving. That's the definition I was using. Maybe if you have the consideration of some kind of thought relating to money, that could be different.
Yeah, I don't likewise. I don't. Money is not the main driver, right? Like, and have I felt fulfilled? I mean, hopefully from the way I talked about, say, like my first experience in those first few years I was back, like that was amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've raised my kids here. I think that's been a blessing. Things change over time. So if we get a chance to talk about kids, like at an early age is a great place for them. As they get older, do I think it's still a great place? Probably not. But just on the same topic, I was stuck outside an embassy the other day. And there was another person stuck with me. It was very frustrating. So we tried to make the best of it. I don't know how it came up, but he mentioned something about Emperor Haile Selassie. And I don't know if this is apocryphal or if it was, if it really happened. But he said something like his armies were losing battles. They would go somewhere and they would lose battles. So what he started doing was send them over, say, a bridge or a metaphorical bridge or something, and then he would destroy the bridge. So there's no way back. And once that option was removed, his army started winning.
Wow.
Right? I think oftentimes we do ourselves disservice by I mean diaspora, by this constant back and forth. Should I stay? Should I go? What would have happened if I had done this? And so forth and so forth. So I think it's in our interest to commit fully to a path that you've chosen, as difficult as that might sound.
Definitely. A common friend that we have was mentioning earlier about Ray Dalio's book, The New World Order. And we were talking about, he obviously studied in the US like yourself, and he was telling me the circulars coming for the US to go down, so Africa will be taking over. And I asked a very naive question. There is China, I said. Yeah, China, he replied, China had it, but I don't think China will be using it because China meddled in politics, and politics is not, their forte or anything like that. So he was telling me about Africa becoming this big empire in near future. I was like, are you talking about the Africa that we're living in? So this guy, Ray Dalio, in the book talks about a circle, one generation breeding another generation. When I'm butchering the whole thing, but I have to tell it. When the generation is strong, the next generation receives the strength of this generation and it perpetuates it. And at some point, a weak generation comes in, and a weak generation actually passes on and gives a very weak system and everything like that. And he was explaining to me about the system that is in the US today, people talking about individuals dying instead of talking about the economy of the country and macro level issues that should be discussed. And he mentioned how the Chinese are doing all these things, and the focus was better 20 or 30 years ago, not today, because they're thinking about actually arming themselves, having weapons and things of that nature. And the only continent that is actually thinking of growing is the continent of Africa. And he was explaining that Paris or cities in in Europe becoming ghettos because of people coming from different part of the world, and they're not innovating or creating anything new now. Do you agree with some of the concepts like this? Because you're talking about the USA, coming from the US, and you still think that sticking to one of the areas, or either Ethiopia or the US, is the best thing to do. And I take it that you still think US could be one of the options.
Yeah, it's always an option. I'm not going to give that option up. Look, I haven't read the book.
All right.
And geopolitics is not my forte or necessarily a huge interest. So I don't spend too much time on it. But look, I think, first of all, I don't think one has to fall for another to rise necessarily. I don't think that way. Even though it may work out that way. And I think different countries, different civilizations, if you will, are at different stages. Okay, so Africa is young. I remember, if you think about our parents' generations, just one generation ago, what were they focused on? It was politics. It was ideology. It was, freedoms, right?
Yeah.
It's only our generation, and you can say this broadly for Africa, that's focused on prosperity, right? And these aren't necessarily my words, but the concept makes sense, right? Like, it's only in our generation that we have had the luxury to focus on prosperity and business and making money and so forth, right? Prior to that, we were concerned about, fighting some oppressor or the other, or fighting for some ideology. So we're still young and we're very hungry, right? For the basics. And we're also starting from a very low base, right? We don't have anything compared to people in America or Europe and even China, right? So we're hungry, and we have all increasingly the stars are aligning, if you will, to make it possible for us to do that. Right? Still huge challenges, but we're at a different stage. So yeah, are we going to emerge as like a huge economic force in the world? Definitely. Because also, if you think about it, we're the last continent that hasn't done that. So if you're talking purely in terms of the rate of change and the growth of, say, like the African market, most definitely. And if you're an African optimist, then you obviously believe in that very strongly. Yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Okay. Do you involve in your kids' lives? I mean, do you have conversations about different things with your kids?
About geopolitics?
Not geopolitics.
Although, you believe it or not, we do, because it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time even for young people. And you can't get away from it. I don't listen to much news, nor do I read much news. I think there's one source, and I limit it to like 15 minutes a day. I don't get much from news, but you know, it finds you. People talking about it. It affects you personally, some way or another. So yeah, we actually do end up talking about some things. But yeah, I like to think I.
All right. The reason I mentioned that I asked you the question is because development is related to economics, and you did both development and economics. So there must be something that actually triggers you or some part of your ideas. And the reason I asked you the question about your kids is, what is their understanding of Ethiopia? What is their understanding of, I mean, do they have any kind of take about their country? Do they consider Ethiopia their country, first of all?
You ask me tough questions, man. Do I? Yeah. So, I mean, look, my kids are, the eldest is 16, I have a 14-year-old, I have a 9-year-old, right? So the eyes through which they look at Ethiopia is different. It's, for lack of a better word, maybe superficial. It's what they see with their eyes, right? And what they, compared to what they see outside Ethiopia. And if I think about it, what they see outside Ethiopia is usually on holiday in the summer. Beautiful weather, mom and dad are with you all the time, you're doing something every day, you go to nice places. Power doesn't go out. My daughter always mentions there's as much hot water as she can possibly use, never runs out. So those kinds of things. So the two things that they're comparing are, like I said, kind of on the surface. But I think as they get older, they definitely they say things and they recognize things that are a little bit deeper. Just even the amount of time that as parents you're able to spend with your kids here, and the type of time, right? Like it's quality time. So they notice that, and they see differences, say like in the US when they visit. But I think they do. If they're, with kids also, I don't know, maybe I won't talk for all kids, but I definitely felt that, if I was anywhere, I wanted to be special or maybe different, like not like everybody else. So if I was ever outside and amongst other things, I'm like, yes, I'm from Ethiopia because that's different. Right? So, that's one way they may value it, but I think the older they get, they do see deeper differences.
All right. Yeah. Are you worried about what they're exposed to in terms of the internet and the social media?
All the time. Oh, that's one of the most difficult things for kids now. And difficult things as parents.
All right.
It's very different with every family. Our kids, my daughter was 13 when she got a phone. They were usually one of the last amongst their friends to get it. And social media only now when she's 16, did we, comfortably say, okay, could do social media. It's a challenge. We try to keep them away from it as much as possible, but it's like a drug. It's like a really bad drug. And it's a very sensitive topic. It is like it's sensitive because it's so difficult, and because as parents, we don't have all the answers. It's a struggle because, it's a struggle. It's a deep one. I think by being in Ethiopia, we've benefited a little bit from them not being as exposed to it. I think it's probably scaled back a little bit. They don't, they have all the media influences that they necessarily do there. But again, it's, they have a phone, or if their kids are talking about it, if their friends are talking about it, they're exposed. It's definitely a cross-border. It's an international problem. But it's kind of like an epidemic. I don't know if you've read or listened to The Anxious Generation.
Yeah, Jonathan Haidt.
Yeah. I haven't read the book. I've listened to the author and bits and part of it. But I was struck by the statistics about, the rates of depression and just basically changes in how kids behaved across the world, starting from a very specific point in time. I think it was, I can't remember the date, like 2015 or something, right? And so it's definitely an international problem. I think that the correlation with the smartphone, and especially, maybe not smartphone, but correlation with social media is very strong. I can see it. We've seen changes in our own kids when they are on, say, a phone or social media, and when they are not. So, I strongly believe it's a really tough problem.
Yeah, I sometimes think because we're giving our kids everything they want, and they're taking it for granted, and it actually, I am reminded of the way I was brought up in Ethiopia. I consider it an opportunity now, but it was a misfortune. I was brought up in a very poor family, so every chance I get today, every opportunity that I have today, I consider it to be a privilege, a very big privilege. For example, the chance to talk to you, to meet people like yourself, the friends I have. Do you really believe that we're contributing? This is my belief. We're contributing to their detriment or any misfortune that they're feeling because we're giving them everything. They're not actually tough enough to go through the problems that they are facing because they were not exposed to the tough situations or the hurdles that we faced. That's one of my worries.
Yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about it. We don't let our kids fail. We don't give them much independence. By the way, it's not just us in Ethiopia. It's parents around the world, right? Things have changed. Like, I think there's helicopter parents, right? Yeah, when we were kids, you left in the morning, you came home at night, right? Like, you were out, you were interacting with people. Addis, I mean, if I bring it back to Addis, you were, it was safer. I used to bicycle to school. At like 14, I would be going around the city in a taxi. You were fairly independent. I think we've lost that. My son does not go around in taxis. I mean, even like a ride-hailing car. Once or twice he may have been, but it's not a regular thing for him now. But yeah, 100%. And it's a worldwide thing. And so interesting you say that, because I was mentioning, I said, Ethiopia may not be the best place for my kids at this age now. And a lot of it has to do with that, right? So I went with my son to a couple of summers ago to Spain, to Mallorca. He's an avid tennis player, and he was going to a tennis camp. So I had a hotel nearby. The tennis courts were 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk, but we were in a small city. And he would leave there. By the way, he was 13 at the time, right? So he would leave there in the morning with his tennis thing, and he'd come home at night. And it was such a valuable experience and just independence. I mean, for European kids, that's what they do every day. But for me, it was new. You go out, and I found out later they got into all sorts of trouble. But, trouble is good. You come home with all your fingers on your... It's okay, right? But they'd go to supermarket and buy food and go to like a water park. And that's where... I mean, those are the skills that are going to matter in the future. Like how to deal with people, how to solve problems, how to build relationships. Those are important skills you're not going to build if you don't have a certain level of independence. To make, both like kind of physical independence, but also to make mistakes and to fail. I think you learn more from failure than you do otherwise, right? And I think as parents, we should let our kids fail more often, right?
Because I don't think we're doing that a lot. And I believe I am not wrong in assuming that the parents of this generation will regret what they did to their kids and the next generation. The reason I'm telling you, I'm saying this boldly is because I have relatives living in Addis. The only way they think that they are giving their kids opportunities is because when they give them a lot of money, and have them give them all the things that they want, and these kids end up having all the chances, all the opportunities, and anything that is related to struggle, or anything related to actually overcoming that problem is not okay for them. So the parents that we have, especially in the cities and others in big cities of Ethiopia, they think sending their kids to this big schools, big is another thing which needs some kind of definition. They think because they're sending them to these schools, everything is taken care of. Do you think we have any way out of that? Because we don't think that is a problem now, because these kids are going to those schools and spending time with these posh rich kids from their neighborhood, and life outside their school is repugnant or something very bad. They don't meet people. Their relatives coming from the countryside are strange kind of people. I see that in my family. I see that in my relatives' family. So I'm scared of that phenomenon. I mean, turning into something bad that can affect the generation that is coming.
Look, parenting is tough. There really isn't a playbook. We're all making it up as we go along. And by and large, you're trying to, you could be doing two things. You could be trying to make your kids happy, which is admirable, right? Or you can just be trying to do your best. Either way, it comes from a good place, right? So I know there are different approaches. I may not agree with some of the approaches, but people come from different backgrounds. People have different motivations. People have different styles. So it's hard for me to say what you're doing is wrong and what I'm doing is right. I hope what I'm doing is right. I don't know if I'm doing is right. But I mean, that's on one level, right? It's a tough one. Obviously, there's some things that you can there's probably enough evidence that certain things are not good for kids, right? Like you said, we give them everything. You don't want to give your kid everything, I don't think. Especially not, you don't want to spoil your kids. I think you have to instill in them a certain they have to want for something, right? If everything comes easily, you're never gonna be tough enough to go out and get what you want. You're not gonna have much grit. In fact, to be honest with you, as much as we try, I think, say, like an upper class or middle class upbringing can often be a detriment. As in, you've never seen how bad it can get. And that sometimes could lead to just not having enough drive to push through the tough times. And you might just have a decent life, but you may not distinguish yourself, because to distinguish yourself is tough and takes a lot of hard work. And so anyway, parenting is tough. I'm figuring it out as I go along, but it's tough.
It's a really beautiful area. I like talking about it a lot, because it's really challenging. It's amazing to be a parent and trying to figure out the ways.
Yeah.
Would you allow your kids to be bored?
To be bored?
Yeah. Like, no having anything. Let me give you a scenario.
Yeah.
I take my kids to the countryside sometimes.
Yeah.
And there is nothing.
Yeah.
The cattle some places, and kids looking after their cattle.
Yeah.
And spending time in there. I leave them there, and they spend time there. Then they say, "Daddy, we're bored." I'm okay with that.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
all right.
That time, I mean, nature is one thing by itself, but that time where you have to explore and entertain yourself and make games, go on adventures. That's amazing. So I live in a real estate compound. And I've loved watching my youngest 9-year-old son. So we have a few neighbors, and one of my neighbors built a house. I wouldn't call it a tree house, but it's not in a tree house, but it's that kind of concept, right? It's not in a tree. It's that kind of concept. And it was like a shell. And so for weeks on end, and even I think to this day, my son and, there must have been 5 or 6 other ones from, I'd say, 5 years old to maybe 10 or 11 years old. They would spend hours on end in this house, right? Just playing. And it actually got to be a bit of a problem, because I'd see him leaving our house with all sorts of stuff, like a chair or like a gabby. And I got concerned when I saw him leaving with a pane of glass. I tried to hide so the kids. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "It's for our house." I said, "What's with the glass?" He said, "We need a window, right?" So and then they come home from school and can't wait to go to the house and just play. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's not being bored, but it's, if I'm trying to see beyond what you're asking, it's like, don't entertain them all the time, or there's no screen involved. Yeah, that's a blessing. That's heaven. Yeah, I love it.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a business person or entrepreneur?
Very good question. Very good question. Because I think often about, there's a definition of entrepreneur, and then there's the definition of what a great entrepreneur is. Yeah. So I think my passion, my interests all lie in entrepreneurship. Ultimately, I love building things. I love trying to solve problems. I typically, or at least, for a large part of my career, that's been from like a technology angle. But what excites me is building businesses. And and more broadly, I think businesses are the engine that are going to change countries like Ethiopia, that are going to create jobs, that are going to solve problems, and that are going to transform us. Yeah. So in that regard, I'm very much an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Tell me about a particular business that you think about a lot. A business that you actually established maybe in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And tell me in terms of the contribution that the business has, or Why are you interested about that particular business?
Okay, well, let me talk about the FinTech space. Right?
Sure.
So, a large part of my career in Ethiopia was with a company that I founded with two other my friends, and my brother also joined us, called Deposit, that was in the technology space. And a lot of our work there was around FinTech, right? So it wasn't in, ultimately we didn't practice it in Ethiopia. We have a lot of experience in that space. So to me, yeah, that was solving a problem, a very obvious problem, like how difficult it is or was to pay and to get paid, right? To transact, to build digital businesses. So that was something that I think in Ethiopia we were a little before, our timing wasn't great, right? So we had been doing this in Nigeria since 2009, right? And the obvious question is, we should do it in Ethiopia. Like this is just, it's a no-brainer. And today it sounds obvious, right? You pay for everything with Telebro or bank transfer. You'd be hard pressed to find bills in your pocket now, right? So it was an obvious thing. So that was a bit of an obsession, but the timing wasn't right. And a big part of business is timing. So anyway, we tried multiple times. Initially, I don't think the regulatory environment was conducive for us to do it, so we didn't. And then the regulation changed, or was changing, and that's when we actually made a pretty significant business decision as a company to join forces with another company to pursue it here. I think unfortunately there, we were reliant on the fundraising of this other company that we worked with. The global situation changed, and Ethiopia became less of a priority. So we never ended up launching it fully in Ethiopia. But I mean, your question is about the entrepreneurial maybe opportunity.
Yeah.
So you've seen it. You've seen Ethiopia transform itself in the past 5 years maybe, since new regulation was introduced, since something like Telebur was introduced, since certain fundamental kind of infrastructural issues were solved, like interoperability, and ETH-Switch, the national switch, began operating and removing some of the barriers basically that were holding back the industry. And I think this is true with a lot of things in Ethiopia. There's a lot of pent-up demand. Pent-up demand waiting to explode, and if certain barriers are removed, right? And you see this in the FinTech space now. There's so many successful businesses, there's so many new ideas. Like a whole world of commerce has been opened because the digital payment space was kind of unlocked. Yeah. So that's a space that's really interesting and close to my heart. Yeah.
Is there any sector that you advise people to engage in Ethiopia?
The FinTech sector, the digital sector. It's what I know. If I were to advise anybody, it would be about what I know. I don't think it's never been as good as it is now. That's not to say it can't get a lot better, but it's never been as good as it is now in the 23 years that I've been here. And remember, the internet was barely here when I moved back, right? So for the digital economy in Ethiopia, it's never been as good. And I think the digital space has a lot of benefits. It's hugely scalable. You don't need necessarily that much capital to get started. You're not building a factory or anything. And you can solve real problems. So yeah, the digital space to me is really interesting. Yeah.
Great. You mentioned about Nigeria, and you're working in Nigeria, and you have this experience in the US, saying come back to Ethiopia, and you have this experience in Ethiopia as well. There's Nigeria. So What is different about Nigeria, and what works in Nigeria that doesn't work in Ethiopia? And do you have anything to compare the two countries?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
So Nigeria is it's a big company. It's a big country.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. It's very competitive. I think it was also fairly advanced regulatory wise, especially in, say, like the finance sector. So you were able to do a lot there, right? The thing about Ethiopia, so in my current role, right? So now I work in venture capital. I work for a Pan-African venture capital firm called Renew Capital. My job is to make venture capital investments in companies across Africa. Anything out of Nigeria, so there's something we look at when we look at companies, like, are they investable? How are they doing? So for something we call traction, which basically means how are they doing? Like, what measures are there to tell us that this is a successful business? Numbers out of Nigeria are off the charts. For a company, say like in Ethiopia, to tell you, a company Ethiopia that's doing well might tell you they have 10,000 customers. Nigeria, that'd be 100,000 or 1 million. Anything. Revenue, same way. So Nigeria is active. People hustle. But the interesting thing is, again, going to like environment. Are Nigerians fundamentally different? Yeah, they may be a little bit louder culturally than Ethiopians, but are they fundamentally different? Maybe not. I would argue probably not. So my point is, I see Ethiopia, largely because of its population, becoming, comparable to that kind of market, the Nigerian market, right? Like where there's just huge traction, huge business opportunities. Many of the unicorns, these big companies valued at certain values are out of Nigeria. And I see that for Ethiopia. I don't know if I'm getting my numbers right, but M-Pesa in Kenya, right? It's touted as a huge success, which it is, right? But the Kenyan population is what? I'm not sure, maybe 40 million or something? Right?
Around there.
I don't know if this is true, but on certain metrics, in 5 years, we've probably potentially overtaken them. Say maybe number of mobile money subscribers, right? Just by virtue of the fact that Ethiopia is, a significantly larger country. And that's what I'm talking about, like this pent up demand waiting to explode. We've seen it. And I think we'll see more and more of it. Yeah.
Tell us more about Renew Capital. What do you guys do there?
So Renew Capital is, as I mentioned, a Pan-African venture capital firm, right? So we make venture capital investments in early stage. So by early stage, there's some kind of industry terms. We call it pre-seed and seed, right? So companies that, let me call them high growth companies, or companies that have potential, or the founders think they have enough potential that they're going to take on shareholders to give them capital, right? Like to do that, you have to think and believe that your company is going to be a certain size, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. But anyway, so when you start a company, maybe you have some capital of your own. Maybe you raise it from friends and families. Maybe then you might bring in some angel investors, like, you broaden the circle. And then following that, maybe you go on to early stage investors like that. That's what we call pre-seed and seed, right? And we invest in companies, not just an idea, but companies that have a product in the market that have what I was referring to earlier, traction, some measurements that indicate that, okay, they may be onto something, and that people will pay for whatever product or service they're offering. Yeah. So that's what we do. We work across Africa. We have people in 13 countries, although we would look at deals in any African country. And I'm responsible, along with my team, for deploying capital that the firm has raised into those companies. Right?
Any particular area that you are focused on?
Yes, very much so. So we're focused on what we call tech-enabled, so technology businesses largely, that are asset light, So we don't want to make investments in big kind of capital expenditures. We're largely sector agnostic. So we would look at healthcare or agriculture or FinTech or logistics or whatever. Having said that, a lot of our investments will tend to be in certain areas, specifically, for example, FinTech or logistics and things like that. Because as a venture capital firm, you're looking for outsized returns, right? You're expecting the company to explode, to get really big, and that's how you make your return. Because you assume that a lot of your investments in these early stage companies won't work. So you're looking for outsized returns. So certain sectors lend themselves to that better than others, in my experience.
Would you advise anyone from the diaspora to come and engage in your area?
In the investments?
Yeah.
Yes, with a disclaimer, of course.
What is the disclaimer? Give it first.
Basically, I'm not promising anything, and it's very risky. It's very risky, right? Like even angel investing, venture capital investing, the people that do that have money to lose. Let me put it that way, right? Like they can afford to fail, right? It's not gonna, and that's how it should be, right? Like if that wasn't the case, I would say, yeah, there's safer bets to put your money in, right? But yeah, if you can do it 100%, not just from a personal returns perspective, but contributing to the ecosystem and doing your part to maybe support some young entrepreneurs, but ultimately Ethiopia, right? Yeah, 100%.
All right. A friend that I mentioned earlier, he told me, I told him that I'll be meeting today with you and we'll be recording this. And he asked if I have questions, ready questions. And I told him yes. He advised that I shouldn't do anything that is based on written anything because he mentioned some things. What do you think is the main reason that he advised against me bringing questions and asking you, straightforward?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Why? I'm not sure. Why have you run out of questions?
No. I have a lot.
You can pull them out if you want. The ones you wrote down.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was thinking that it relates to your personality, maybe, or you may be that person who likes everything to be maybe organic. Maybe I don't know.
People that know me will probably say no. Like I'm quite deliberate and I'm less impulsive. So yeah, if you had invited me here and said, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to ask you, I would have pushed back, right? Like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Are you enjoying this so far?
Very much.
All right.
Much, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you about startups in Ethiopia.
Okay.
You've been mentioning about unicorns, and you had your doubts about unicorns in Ethiopia. Do you believe that some people claim that we have a unicorn in Ethiopia? Do you believe we have one?
Well, let me just say that, yeah, we will have them. There's no reason we won't have them.
In the future, we'll have them, but now.
Look, a unicorn, right? So, like what's a unicorn? It's like the valuation. The company is valued at over $1 billion, right?
Definitely.
Valuations are they are not entirely precise, right? Like at the end of the day, the valuation comes down to what somebody is willing to pay for a company, but it's not precise, right? So sometimes a company could be making no money and it could be valued at $1 billion. So it's not fully like based on realities on the ground. A lot of it is perception and hopes and plans for maybe where the company can go, right? So it's a loose. It's not a scientific thing. It's not like you do XXX. Sometimes you might see companies say, why are they valued at that? And sometimes. So yeah, do we have the potential?
We have the potential, but shouldn't we be objective about it? The reason I'm saying this is because I asked the person that is considered to, whose company is considered to be a unicorn in Ethiopia. And this person said, yeah, we are a unicorn. And listen, I went back
in birr or dollars?
In dollars.
Yeah.
I
maybe, I don't know. But look, I mean, Ethiopia has some things working against it that are, maybe, like I said, it's not a clear path for companies to get to that unicorn status, right? And by the way, unicorn is dollar investments, which means you need somebody investing in dollars to want to value that at that. So you have to attract a foreign investor that's going to give you that valuation, right? Couple of things. One is our market size. We have a big population, headline figure. But when you break that down, and unicorns are often in the digital space, right? So what market is there that in the digital space can reach enough people to get that status, or can make enough money to get that status, right? Maybe Telebur. Maybe Telebur might be a unicorn. Probably is. I don't know. So even though we have a large population, because we're not heavily urbanized, that itself is one obstacle to maybe getting a valuation of that size, right? There's a lot of African countries that have multiple big cities. In Ethiopia, Addis. I mean, most things happen in Addis, right? There are not that many technology companies that are working very actively with huge users outside of Addis. I might be mistaken, right? So that's one thing. Then there's, until recently, just the environment for attracting foreign investment of that size. Things are changing rapidly, right? But you also face problems of devaluation. And this is something companies across Africa have felt. Definitely, our partners in Nigeria. 4 or 5 years ago, when I was there, it was about 400 naira to the dollar. When I went now, it's 1,500 naira, right? So if you're earning in naira, in dollar terms, that's slashed by a third almost, more than a third. So that affects your valuation, right? Because valuations are in dollars. But do we have the potential? Yeah, absolutely. I see so-called unicorns in countries like Egypt, countries like Nigeria. What do we have in common with them? We have a huge population, right? So yeah, it'll happen. It'll definitely happen.
All right. Yeah. So you mentioned, talking about human nature, you mentioned that we are maybe similar in terms of maybe the foundational things. We've been mentioning something about Americans and Ethiopians, and you mentioned that we're similar-ish, maybe. I was talking to different guests here, and I had the chance to read books written by authors from the US, authors from Europe, and African authors, and they tend to classify our behavior, our nature, as, for example, if you see Ethiopians, the pace that we work, we don't want to be bothered. We don't like to be bothered. For lack of a better word, we like to move slow. Then we achieve a lot. We do a lot of things, but I think that somehow helps maintain our mental health. I tend to see it that way. And if you see Americans or people trying to go to, for example, South Korea or Japan, they have their own traits, their own nature, way of doing things. It could be business or otherwise. So some people are competitive. For example, I can never compare Ethiopians in terms of competition with that of American people. The Americans have this urge of actually going fast to accomplish things, and after getting one thing, they move into the other. As you are exposed to all these cultures, would you still say that we're the same?
Absolutely.
Justify that.
So what I said was, intrinsically, as human beings, we are no different, but we are shaped by our environment, right? Like it could, and that could be culture, it could be incentives, it could be punishments, and so forth, right? And I'm sure, like, a lot of these differences in people, say like an Ethiopian and an American, and the examples you chose, a lot of it is traced back to stuff like that, right? Maybe it didn't benefit us to try to go quickly. Maybe we tried to go quickly, but it would, you just don't go anywhere, as you know, can often be the case, right? But if you took that same Ethiopian, okay, this is basically the test, right? You take that same Ethiopian and you put him in a different environment, he would be a very different, or she would be a very different person and would act very differently, right? Right. So to me, it's mostly the environment. And in some regards, some things are very hard to change. Some things I don't think, outside of generational change, you will see a change in, like maybe certain views, right? But other things are easy to change, in that it only takes somebody, you only have to show it to somebody once for it to change fundamentally. For example, these are not very deep examples, but I remember many years ago during Ihadig, when they started building roads, like these big roads that now we're used to. And I remember somebody saying, well, they're going to build one from Moscow Square to Kaliti, whatever it was, like a 30, 40 meter, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 lane road. And I remember thinking, impossible, never going to happen, right? And then it happens. And then that's it. You've seen it. Now you have no doubts. In fact, you expect it to happen quickly. I see this also in like business ideas, right? Every kind of, say, pioneer, I use that word, that kind of breaks the mold and demonstrates something exceptional, that immediately becomes the next standard, right? So in some ways, it's very easy to change. Like if you walked around Addis today and you looked at some of the restaurants, they could be anywhere in the world, right? Like, so it's not that difficult to change certain things. But yeah, I still assert that largely we're shaped by our environment. And that includes culture and so forth.
I understand. I totally understand now. Do you have a comfort zone?
A comfort zone?
Yeah.
All sorts of comfort zones, yeah.
Tell me about them.
Oh, man. They're the ones I'm trying to get out of.
Why?
Yeah, I don't think you grow in your comfort zone. You don't grow in your comfort zone. I think you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone to grow. I know that. I think that's a fact. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to understand what the comfort zone for an entrepreneur like yourself is. Or
it's funny. I don't think of it as an entrepreneur. I think it more as an individual.
Right?
Okay.
Like let's take it as an individual.
Yeah, I'm more introverted.
All right.
If I was to stay in my comfort zone, I would often be at home.
You wouldn't come here as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't come here. You know how hard it was to get me here, right? I get energy from being alone more than with people. Although once I'm out with people, I really enjoy it. And there's seldom been an instance where I pushed myself, say, to go out of my comfort zone, that I've regretted it. And right, so that's what I mean. Like, you meet somebody new, you have an interesting conversation, you hear an interesting idea, right? If you stay in your comfort zone, I wouldn't have heard that. That's one area in my comfort zone. Ethiopia was my comfort zone. As a business, yeah, we worked with a client in Nigeria. But we didn't explore much business outside Ethiopia. And most of the business ideas I used to think of or have thought of, and sometimes if I don't push myself enough, still think of, are in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is my comfort zone. Like I feel like I know Ethiopia better than anywhere else. But when I moved on, when I joined Renew, in a way, that was me trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone. And so now most of the business I do is outside Ethiopia. And I've learned a great deal, right? Yeah, so that was another comfort zone.
I don't know whether we should call it seeking for a confirmation bias or anything like that from on my part. I have problems. For example, I don't consider it to be a problem. I just like to be in my comfort zone all the time. For example, I go outside Ethiopia for work, and the maximum I want to stay in those places is maybe 5 or 6 days. After that, it could be really important or really big, but I just want to come back here, spend time with my friends and my family. And I was looking for an answer that would tell me, comfort zone is a great thing. Stay in there.
It's comfortable, right?
It's comfortable.
Yeah, it's called the comfort zone.
Okay. For example, we sitting here. I'm talking to you. We're conversing and we're raising ideas and talking about different things. And I love it here. I consider this might to be my comfort zone.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
No, right.
But how are you going to grow this? Right? Maybe you start talking to people you're not so comfortable talking to.
I hate that.
What?
I hate that.
Right? But that grows you. You grow. I honestly don't think you can grow in your comfort zone unless you're just extremely lucky. And your comfort zone happens to be like, like everything works there. To grow, you have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Even exercise, right? Like even say like strength training, your body. You have to break things. You break down your muscles and they grow back stronger, right? That's how you build muscle. You're pushing yourself further than you think you can. If you just went to the gym and sat there or didn't get your heart rate up or didn't sweat, that's comfortable, but you're not doing yourself any good, right? So yeah, I'm a strong believer that people have their comfort zones and those are good. I mean, those are good places that you need to go sometimes. But if you want to grow, you have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and put yourself in situations that are unfamiliar, and you can learn something new.
How do you choose your friends? I mean, you keep mentioning Eric a lot. And is that because this person actually empowers whatever you do, or do you have anything in particular? The reason I'm asking this question is because people keep telling me that you are the result of the people that are around you. And I just want to learn the secret as to how you can build that.
Yeah, 100%. You become like the people around you, right? Like even human nature will tend towards being like the group, like just naturally. If you take this back to like in our DNA and evolutionary traits, as people that live with other people, you're programmed to become like the people that you want, so you can belong, right? So 100% you will become like the people you associate with around you, I think. Yeah, and I consider myself to have been very lucky and still lucky to have type of close friends that I do, because they have pushed me outside my comfort zone. And that's how I think I've been able to grow. even for example, with my daughter now, who I mentioned, I just, I sent her to a new school, a boarding school outside Ethiopia. One of the reasons was I wanted her to be around people that will build her up and challenge her, and get the best out of her. Yeah. So 100%. Now, is there a secret as to how to do this? No, I don't think there's any secret. You know what's good for you, and you know what's bad for you. You know who builds you up, and you know who brings you down. You know who challenges you, and I think you should, again, you should seek out friendships that build you up and grow, and help you to grow. I can't say, like, if I think back on it, it's not like I had a choice. I'm going to go with these people, or I'm going to go with those people. I think it can happen naturally, but if you do find yourself perhaps stuck amongst the wrong people, I think it's important for you to recognize that and do something to change that. To change that. But 100%. And that's why, people seek out mentors. I think that's really important. It's an opportunity for you to learn from somebody else. And then there's this interesting phenomenon, shall I say, that I believe in. As you age, you become a different person, right? Abraham, you don't know what the Abraham in the 10 years in the future is going to think or believe, for that matter, right? You'd like to know, or maybe you assume you'll be exactly the same, but you won't be, right? But oftentimes you can create a window into how you might be by, seeking out somebody that's there now, that you think is similar to you. And you ask them, how do they see the world? Or what are they concerned about at that age? And that gives you a little bit of a window into your future self, right? So I think, like, the people around you and seeking out that kind of mentorship and guidance is hugely important for us as individuals to grow. And that's kind of the theme, right? Like, you never want to stop learning. You never want to stop growing. And you have to actively do that, even with your relationships, right? Like, anything left untended, I think, descends into something not good, right? Like, you have to put time and energy and conscious thought into things. And we're not always very good at that with everything. But relationships are probably some of the most important things you can invest in. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Is there any challenge that you want to conquer going forward?
Challenge. I'd consider one of my biggest challenges now is doing the best I possibly can for my kids. And just giving them the best chance to face the world in front of us that they're growing into. Yeah, and I consider it a challenge because it's tough, and I don't have all the answers, and I'm trying to figure it out along the way. That's one. I have to admit, I don't have any other grandiose plans. Like, I'm not trying to solve world hunger, but I might do it. I might do it, like, on a small scale, like a business that's solving a particular challenge, and my contribution will be small in the global context, or like, but I think of it at that level, in very specific, interests and capabilities that I think that I have. Broadly, it's prosperity in Ethiopia. And again, like I mentioned, to me, the vehicle is businesses, either that we invest in, or maybe that I choose to start and run. Right. Those are the.
All right. Do you have any ideal Ethiopia in your mind where you can work and not be frustrated about things? Do you have that kind of place?
A dream.
Yeah.
I dream of Ethiopia where you get in you get out what you put in. I can't say for many people, I think Ethiopia has given back what they've put in for various reasons. So I dream of Ethiopia where you get out what you put in. You work hard, you should succeed. I would like Ethiopia to be, and this is, I don't know, people might not agree with it, but maybe more predictable, right? Like more structured, where you can plan long term. I don't think we're there yet. We're in transition. I dream of Ethiopia with less micro stresses, less things that on a daily basis don't kill you, but take something out of you. And there are a lot of those, unfortunately, now. I still think. Obviously, I dream of Ethiopia that's peaceful again. That we can go anywhere at any time and feel like we belong. It's been many years now since I haven't traveled much in Ethiopia, unfortunately. And that's taken a lot out of what Ethiopia is for me. But those are some of the dreams. And I guess ultimately, I dream of an Ethiopia where my kids might want to come back to. Yeah.
The raw economics of it, I'm thinking like people going to school in Ethiopia, they tend to tell you their educational background. They say, I went to law school and I practiced as a judge or something like that. You mentioned economics is there in your educational background. Do you practice it, or do you feel like using that background?
No, not much.
Why not?
Not much. I mean, I practice it insofar as I try to understand how Ethiopia's economy is transforming, and what certain policy measures they're hoping to achieve, and like that. But I can't say I've really practiced economics professionally or much, really.
The reason I have this question is because development and economics, and you're not into geopolitics.
Yeah. And
you're taken out of your background as someone who studied in that environment, in Ivy League school.
Yeah.
And you're practicing a completely different.
Yeah. So I never used what I studied professionally.
Wow.
Why? Because the first job I got out of college had nothing to do with that, right? And that's, I guess, another branch in the road that I took, right? That was more into technology. And it led me down the road of technology. And that's kind of where I've been. That's the road I've taken. So I never studied computer science. I don't think I took a single computer science, right? But I worked for many years in software engineering, right? The company that we founded here was, at its core, a software engineering company. So that's why. It's just how life takes you. But I also don't think that what you learn in school, the knowledge itself, is very useful. Yeah, you don't go to school to learn facts unless you're a doctor or I don't know what other profession, like maybe an engineer or something. The best you can get out of university is how to learn, how to adapt, how to think critically, and so forth. And it goes back to much earlier in our conversation where I told you we were young and confident and we could figure it out, right? Like, life is just about problems. I'm simplifying here, but like obstacles to overcome, problems to solve. And you have to be equipped with a very general set of tools that you apply differently in each situation. So yeah, I studied economics, but I never did much with it. And that's also why, and this is a bit of a personal point of view. It may also be a factor of I never did a master's or anything beyond that. I could have, but I chose to go towards entrepreneurship. I don't necessarily value endless letters behind people's names or credentials or anything, because I've seen a lot of people with all those things that aren't able to contribute that much to what I was working on at the time. So there's a place for all of that. But having certificates and does not necessarily make you good at working in the world and solving problems. And, for the same reason, an Ivy League education is not a guarantee of success by any means, right? Like, if you told me what makes a person successful, I probably would not start with their education. Far from it. It's other traits, and this goes towards. Well, it depends again what you mean by successful, but we're talking about entrepreneurship, right? It's not education. I don't think it's education. It's other things. It's like vision. It's grit. It's bravery, if you will. It's relationships with peoples. It's being able to communicate. It's things like that, right? What makes you a good leader? Not because you got an A in whatever class, leadership class even. No, it's not. Like, you have to inspire people. You have to be able to communicate. You have to connect. Some of those things maybe you practice as you're educated, but it's not education.
We have this understanding.
Sorry, though.
All right.
By no means do I want to imply that education is not important. It is. It's very important, right? And in some ways, it's like a rite of passage. Like, you have to grow up, right? And I can't think of any other place other than an educational institution as a young person that you should be spending your time in as you grow up, right? So, and people mature at different things. So, for those periods of your life, it's the best place for you to be in. It's the best place. But you get more than just knowledge. There's so much else that you get about being in those environments. Yeah.
That was actually my follow-up, because I was thinking of, I don't know if it is a saying or anything like that, Elon Musk. I heard him say, education is based just to soldier through problems, to learn, to experience passing through problems. Because all those times you sit down and you listen to whatever is coming from the lecture, or now technology is giving us all these chances to learn. And it makes you endure the problems that you have in life. So he was saying something like this. But I'm thinking today was democratization of knowledge and AI and everything becoming available. I'm really amazed at how things are changing every day. For example, whatever resource that someone who studies in one of these best schools, be it Harvard or Brown, I can get those resources in Ethiopia. I mean, not exactly the same. For example, lecture someone giving, or a podcast someone talking about this precious things, I can get it from the podcast in Ethiopia. So I consider this generation to be the most privileged. So I sometimes think, am I going to send my kids to universities? I have doubts about that.
Yeah. Look, what are you going to do with your kid? Assuming, when do you start university? Like 18?
Yeah.
You're going to you ready to put your kid out into the real world at 18? Maybe.
Yeah.
Huh? So it is a safe place for them to continue to grow and mature, and if not seeking out knowledge, then learning how to acquire knowledge and then apply knowledge, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned AI and all these things. I still think that you need a human being, currently at least, to take that knowledge and go do something with it in the world, right? You need somebody to, take it into the world, and from a seed, from a thought, to create something. Again, in the context of entrepreneurship or anything like organizational, it takes a person, it takes a leader, and it takes a visionary to create things that are impactful and transformative, right? And the AI doesn't have those skills. Is the AI gonna recruit somebody, convince them to come along on their harebrained idea, and go build a company? No, a person is. So you still need people, and so again, like knowledge, like just intrinsic knowledge about something. Yes, it's at our fingertips. Everybody has it now, but what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? It's made a lot of things easier. Like, it's democratized a lot of things, or if you will, it's kind of commoditized a lot of things. Like, if you take software engineering has become commoditized. Like, if a company came to me today as a venture capital investor and told me that their competitive advantage is that they write good code or they can build applications, I would not take them seriously, right? Like, the difference is going to be how you approach a solution, how you provide a solution to that market, and how you get people to follow you, either people that you employ or investors to come along with you. So you still need the human in the loop to use that term, right? You still need people, and that's why I'm saying, like, these skills of leadership and grit, and problem solving, and those are hugely important.
Okay. I was thinking about the following question that I'm going to ask you a lot. And I think this time around, people in the area of technology are people leading the world. They have dominance over politics, dominance over the economy of different countries, and they have all this power. That's my assumption. Maybe there is some truth to it. As a person, an individual who's taking part in technology and who's really interested about technology and the works of technology, do you consider yourself lucky because this is your time?
Yeah, I think. I'm lucky that I'm not in some sort of dying industry, right? But it's already changing very quickly for me. Like, I'm sure I've fallen behind just because of where I am in my career and my age. I'm sure there's a lot of, technology enthusiast entrepreneurs that are far more advanced than even, I know they are, right, than where I am. But yeah, it's an exciting time. It's a particularly exciting time for Ethiopia because this is, like, there's so much to do here in the digital space. So much to do. I get excited when I pay something with Telebur, or I don't have to go somewhere and stand in a line and That's exciting. And there's so much of our lives that we can make better with technology. Yeah. So yeah, I'm lucky, and I'm very excited.
So this is my last question. Yeah. I was thinking about this thing driving to this studio today, and I know now that Adam is introverted. You don't get comfort out of talking or telling people this and that in public, but imagine yourself appearing in one of these big shows, very big shows. Not in Ethiopia, outside Ethiopia, any one of your favorite shows in the US. And what is the one question that you imagine or you think should be asked? And what would be the answer to that question?
Wow. Should be asked to me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's a tough question. Whatever the question was, they should have sent it to me beforehand.
No.
I think that question that you asked me about what do I dream for Ethiopia, right? Like, I think a question that should be asked should be something that I have some insight into, that I can offer, particularly an audience outside Ethiopia. And it would be something about Ethiopia. And I would hope that it would be something, inspiring and about Ethiopia's future. So similar to the question you asked me, which I never actually thought about, but as I was answering that question, it made sense to me. So that's what I would imagine they would ask me. Where is Ethiopia going to be in the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah, your answer would be?
I said, I don't know, but this is what I hope it would be.
Your answer would be what to that question, if that was
my answer would be, I don't know, but this is what I hope it would be. And I know it would be orders of magnitude further along and better than where we are today.
Honestly speaking, I could talk to you like for 5 or 6 hours. But I know that your time was precious and you have other responsibilities to go to. But I want you to promise me that it won't be the last time that you'll be coming to this show. And I don't know whether or not we met your expectations in actually conducting the whole interview. But that was my last question. Thank you for coming, Adam.
Abraham, thank you very much. What viewers or listeners are not going to know is that we had spent maybe an hour before this even talking. So it's been really enjoyable. I think it's important. You're doing really important work in the sense that we need stories. People thrive on stories. And you're helping bring stories, positive, constructive stories to light. And especially for our younger people, right? The younger generation, stories are really important. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.